Now, most of you might be thinking that why not go with something cheap or free like DaVinci Resolve or the Affinity Photo Suite? And that's a totally fair statement to make. But here's the thing. Adobe isn't just making software anymore. They're an entire ecosystem designed to help creators like me and you make a real impact and real money. It's not all roses though. There are definitely drawbacks and limitations to using Adobe. I'll get into those like later on in the video. I'll leave timestamps for everything I talk about below. And if you think that this content's going to be helpful, I'd appreciate a thumbs up because it helps me out quite a lot. The first reason I still use Adobe in 2025 is quite simple. I think it's a lot easier to make money with it. Whether you're freelancing on the side or doing this full time, Adobe gives you quite literally every tool under the sun under one subscription. If you're video editing for a company, there's Premiere Pro. If you're designing a brand, there's Illustrator. If you're creating social media graphics, you use Photoshop. If you're editing photos for an event, Lightroom is perfect for that, and it all works on mobile devices too, so you can easily post content without having to do a convoluted workflow through a cloud service. Just think about it for a second. The faster you can finish a project, it also means the more work you can take on and probably the less stress you're going to have. Adobe's ecosystem is also very tightly integrated. If you edit something in Photoshop, it automatically updates instantly in Premiere. There's no exporting or converting and re-adding files to your timeline. It's just faster delivery. A faster delivery means, well, less stress and more income. But here's where things get really interesting. There's also a big perception factor. When clients see you working with industry standard tools like Premiere and Photoshop, it signals professionalism. That perception is real, and that alone can justify you charging higher rates, which can cover the cost of using professional tools. Just look at some of the biggest creators on YouTube. I'm talking about Peter McKinnon, MKBHD, or Marquez Brownlee, Linus Tech Tips. All these tools from Adobe have direct impact on their level of success that they've reached. Not all of it. You can't contribute everything to using Adobe, but it still is a contributing factor in their professional workflow. My next reason is where Adobe really crushes the competition, and that's the community support. No matter what you're creating, I can guarantee you there's a YouTube video or a Reddit thread with probably everything you'd need to know on how to do it with Adobe. Not to mention that the majority of resource sites like Envato and Storyblocks and all of the other ones that are mentioned across YouTube, most of their effects and templates are built for like Premiere and Photoshop first, and then only a small batch get ported or converted to DaVinci Resolve or Affinity Photo. And I have firsthand experience where that can make these templates a bit buggy, especially when they're not kept up to date with some of the latest versions. And yes, I do know that Resolve and Capture One and many of the other tools have their own growing communities, but the last time I checked, the size is honestly not even close. And when you're working on tight deadlines or trying to cram in an extra video before the weekend or something like that, that extra layer of support can be a game changer to what you're trying to build. Now let's talk about the big elephant in the room, and that's cost. I know what you're probably thinking, but Derek, Adobe is really expensive and you're going to pay $1,000 a year to use their plan. Well, here's the thing. Adobe isn't just giving you software anymore. They have an entire suite of AI tools that are baked in like crazy. Premiere Pro has AI-driven audio cleanup that actually works really awesome. There's AI captions. There's even some basic editing and color tools coming out. Photoshop has AI-powered generative fill. That's been available for a while, but it still saves a ton of time on revisions and replacing backgrounds. They have insane neural filters that work now where you can color grade two photos together. There's Adobe Firefly is a standalone AI powered design suite. It's kind of like Midjourney on steroids. Not to mention Adobe gives you a massive free font library that can save you quite literally hours searching on sketchy websites trying to download free fonts. Another small thing I use all the time is the document signing feature in Acrobat. So now you don't have to pay for something like the DocuSign service, which just also adds another tool in your everyday toolkit. All these benefits really add up. And here's a pro tip. If you know where to look, you can get Adobe on sale all throughout the year. I've seen Amazon and Costco give full Creative Suite subscriptions for under 500 Canadian loonies for 12 months. That's probably around $300 or $400 US. Right from Adobe themselves, I've seen 40% off like annual subscriptions, so you can again only pay like $400 or $500 a year. I've never paid full price on any of Adobe's subscriptions because they just offer deals when you know where to look. But also, there's a cost to running and growing a business and building a personal brand. And if a few $100s a year on some software subscriptions can save you months or years of time, I think it's 100% worth it. However, Adobe isn't perfect. I'll never claim to say that. Let's just keep that real. And there are some downsides and limitations that you should know about. The subscription model, I get it. Paying monthly or yearly can feel like a never-ending drain on your wallet. But here's my take on this. If you're using Adobe to make money with real clients, the cost becomes an asset and not a liability. For some story time with Derek here, when I was in the trades, it was extremely common for myself and colleagues to even spend $1,000 a month building our toolkits. That's because many trades professionals are making 6 figures a year, and the tools are a big factor that enable it. And it also just makes your job easier. The other downside I should mention could also be considered an asset, and that's Adobe's ecosystem. Kind of like Apple in many ways, once you're in their ecosystem, it's hard to leave. You get used to how everything works together. There's so many good apps that talk to the desktop software. Premiere talks to After Effects. After Effects can talk to Photoshop. And before you know it, switching to anything else feels like a hassle. And that can be both a blessing and a curse, depending on the way you look at it. But it is one of the bigger reasons why I stick with Adobe. It's just convenient. Everything syncs, everything just works together. I don't have to think about that part of a creative project. Now, I'll be completely honest and transparent. Adobe hasn't paid me anything to talk about their products. I'm just a fan that have used their tools for over a decade. If you're on the fence with Adobe or you're a fanboy like me, I would genuinely like to hear your experience in the comments with using design and video tools. I think if you're serious about making money as a creative professional and want to grow an online brand as fast as possible, Adobe is a really worthy option to look into. It's definitely not the only option, but it's worth considering. Don't get me wrong, I'm still a tech enthusiast, and I'm actually really curious to try Capture One for photo editing one day. They don't have an Android app, which is kind of doo-doo, but whatever. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, Derek out.